and participants joining us from across the world. On behalf of Hugh Rain Secondary School, I warmly welcome you to the April edition of Parents First. This is an initiative whose intention is to equip parents with practical tools for effective parenting and personal growth through free monthly seminars designed for families globally. We are truly delighted to have you here with us tonight. My name is Melvina Iwanugo, and I'll be your host and moderator throughout the session. Let's really be honest. Parenting today feels like being in constant overdrive. Do we agree? I'd like us to type in the chat box what we think about this. Is this really true? We can use the fire emoji to show how hot the parenting street is. How do we feel about being a parent in our world today? We'd like you to get it buzzing good. We have some emojis already coming in. So yes, between family responsibilities, career demands, church and community commitments, supporting your children academically and emotionally, it can really be overwhelming, and we can all agree to that. If you've ever felt stretched thin, you are absolutely not alone. And that's exactly why today's conversation is so important for you and I. Today, we'll be exploring the topic, parenting in overdrive, strategies for managing multiple priorities. This session is designed to give you practical, realistic strategies to help each parent balance competing demands, prioritize what truly matters, create safe space for both your family and for yourself. It is my great honor to introduce our highly esteemed speaker for today. He is Dr. Eugene Ohu. He's an associate professor in the Department of Organizational Behavior at Lagos Business School, Nigeria. His work sits at the powerful intersection of psychology, technology, and communication. Dr. Ohu leads the virtual human-computer interaction lab, where he explores how technologies like virtual reality and artificial intelligence can improve well-being, build character strength, support human flourishing. His research has attracted close to $1 million in international funding from reputable organizations such as the Templeton Foundation and Meta. He has also published in top global journals, contributing significantly to conversations around human behavior and technology. Beyond academia, he founded the AI and You community, a growing network across Africa, exploring the ethical, practical, and human implications of artificial intelligence. Tonight, he brings his wealth of knowledge to help us navigate the realities of modern parenting. Dear parents, for the next 40 minutes, we'll be in the hands of Dr. Eugene Ohu. It's my pleasure to hand over the session to him, while we'll continue to be generous to send in the request for other parents to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and keep typing in the chat box where you're joining us from and your name. We have someone to welcome you over there. Sir, over to you now.
Well, very good. Good evening, everyone. And then thank you for the introduction. And then thank you for inviting me for this conversation. I was asking myself really what prompted this conversation, what prompted the choice of topic, parenting in overdrive. And I'm supposed to suggest strategies for managing multiple priorities. Well, I'm going to do my best. Okay, I'm going to do my best. I'm not an expert in all of this, but I'm going to draw from the work I've done in work-life balance, thinking, because at the end of the day, that's where the conversation should start from, which is that all of us play multiple roles in multiple domains. And sometimes there's a conflict between carrying out the responsibilities demanded by these roles. So why does everything feel urgent? I don't know. So that's what we're here to find out, right? Why does it feel urgent? Why does it look like the 24 hours are not enough? Why is it also that sometimes we are calmer? Why is it that sometimes what was easy to handle in times past become more difficult? And I thought the best way to start this conversation was to share this, which I think this is a refresher for all of you. You're all familiar with this. You have been parents, you've been dealing with all this. These circles, each circle is supposed to represent a domain. What is a domain? Which is an area in which we play a particular role. So let's say this is illustrating 5 different domains. And for the purpose of this conversation, let's assume that each of us play one role, only one role in each domain. But in practice, it's usually more than that. We play multiple roles in multiple domains. To give you an example, look at this circle that says role 1. Consider that that is your home. Right now, I don't know where you are. Some of you might be in the car. Some of you may be at home. Let's consider that physical location as one domain, say home. At home, we play more than one domain. We play more than one role. For instance, a woman at home might be one role, might be that of wife in that same domain. Keep your focus on the first circle. Another role she has in that particular place might be mother. One domain, 2 roles. Or if you even consider that the person is a man, one role will be in that same domain, husband. Another one, father. Another one, security man, in the sense that if, God forbid, there's a threat to his family, he has to be police and take care of them. Another role is repairman. Another consideration is that also not all the domains have physical walls. Okay? For example, some domains coexist. With your phone that makes you reachable from work, you already see that the boundary between work and home domain crisscross. What used to be impermeable becomes permeable. So why am I starting the conversation with this? Because at the end of the day, whatever stress we feel usually comes from some conflicts between the roles and the responsibilities in these domains. I think this other slide can clarify it better. For instance, each of the roles has responsibilities. Father, what responsibilities are demanded of you being a father? Maybe make time to read to your children. Maybe make yourself available to pray with them, or maybe wake them up. Mommy worked night shift or whatever, no? And then she's catching up on sleep. So you have to wake them up so that they can prepare. Or you have to play the role of a husband. Now, each of them, there are responsibilities connected to the roles. And then you are supposed to be active in all of the domains. You are supposed to successfully fulfill the responsibilities demanded by all of these roles. And you're supposed to be active in all these roles without feelings of negative stress. So when we talk about lack of work-life balance, or when we say there is imbalance, it's usually because when we're not able to be active in all the roles successfully without feeling negative stress. So with that as a background, so let's go back to the question that we started with, which is why does everything feel urgent? If I stop here, I think you already know the answer, but you already have the answer that I have in mind with that background, which is all of us play different roles in different domains. Sometimes,
Yeah, thank God.
sometimes the domains intersect. To illustrate this, I'm going to give an example of something that may have happened to you. Why does everything feel urgent? Imagine that you are driving. So I live in Lagos. Okay, so I'm going to use Lagos as an example. Imagine that you are driving from, if you're not familiar with the locations I'm going to mention, don't worry, but just think of a distance of about 25 kilometers. So you're driving from the Lagos Business School where I work to the law school. So that's about 20 kilometers more or less. And then in the car, you are alone in the car and you receive a phone call. And the person at the other end asks you, can you talk? You say, yeah, I can talk. Don't worry, I have you on speaker. And then you begin the conversation. And if for some reason, it's a conversation that takes about 30 minutes. And at the end of the call, just when you are approaching the civic center close to the law school, okay, goodbye, bye-bye. Okay, so we'll talk tomorrow. That's how long the call took. Took about 30 minutes. And then the next thing you're wondering is, well, how did I get here? I was driving, but I wasn't exactly conscious of how I got to this place. Well, I think that's a very simple illustration of the fact that there is a limit to our cognitive resources. Because at that moment, whether you liked it or not, you deployed some resources to attend to that phone call, to pay attention to that phone call. So why this example? Because I think one reason why things feel urgent, we feel stressed, we're not able to fulfill the roles, the responsibilities required by all the roles, is simply that the resources have been depleted. Okay. And for some reason, we have not recovered it before confronting the demands of another role. Okay. So maybe if I stop here at this point, I will say my work is done. But I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to suggest, again, in addition to all of that, I'm going to suggest 4 possible causes of why things feel urgent, and what I call 4 moves or 4 solutions. One of them, I'll look at them in detail, but first to hide, just to mention them briefly. One is that importance is silent. And that's not a grammatical error, that's deliberate. So importance is silent. I will explain it again. But quickly here that usually urgency is the only signal that most of our commitments send. So most of the commitments we have, the signal they send is this is urgent, this is urgent, this is urgent. What we find is that important things really are silent. Okay, so that's the first point I wanted to highlight. And what lesson can we draw from here? Can I draw from here? Which is also that maybe sometimes I need to make some things more audible, more legible. There's someone writing on my slides. I like your handwriting. Okay. Yeah, so importance is silent. And then the second point, the second possible cause of why things may feel urgent is that nothing expires by default. I mean, importance is silent. What's the possible solution? Okay. Make importance legible. Make things that are important, make them legible, make them audible, make them louder, and then we'll see how, look at it in more detail. The second possible cause is that nothing expires by default. And what am I trying to say here? Which is that we take on many commitments. Okay, we say yes to many requests to do things, and over time, they pile up. Commitments accumulate. Oh, can you do this? Yes. I don't want to be seen as unhelpful. Okay, fantastic. Can you attend? Okay, fine. We don't examine them. We're not subtracting, we are adding. Maybe sometimes we should ask ourselves, maybe monthly, what did I never actually choose across the different domains in which I'm involved, be it church, social club, whatever, gym. What did I never actually choose? Maybe sometimes to subtract deliberately. The third point, which is a possible cause, I say possible because all of these are, if you like, hypotheses. You can debate them and I might be wrong. The third point, possible point, is borrowed urgency. Which is what? That sometimes we carry other people's deadlines as our own without noticing it. Okay. So maybe one solution could be sort the borrowed from the owned. Ask, whose fire am I putting out? Whose fire is this? Okay. And then the fourth one, I'm going to look at all this in detail, but even more, spend more time in the last one. Zero cost interruption. What is the point here? Okay, zero cost interruption. Before, there used to be clear boundaries, but now the boundaries have largely disappeared. There used to be environmental filters. What do I mean by an environmental filter? One example of a filter could be that you have to leave home to go to work. There was no mobile phone, for instance. Maybe the solution will be to rebuild the filter. Okay, maybe to establish some routines. Okay, we'll come back to all this. Anyway. All right, so let's look at that first point, which is on possible cause, which is importance is silent. I've already mentioned many of the things I'm going to say here, but here there are more examples. That urgent things announce themselves. Urgent things announce themselves. Important things usually wait. They usually wait. And we are finite. The resources we have to deploy to attend to the demands are finite. So usually, if our internal resources, consider it a system, have to read one of the two. Read, maybe you see some things that are urgent or see some things that are important. Which one do you think is going to pay attention to? Urgent things usually win every time. I mean, some of you might be familiar with Stephen Covey, things that are important, not urgent, and so on. But anyway, urgent things usually win every time. Why? Because they are louder. And then what I've done here is, in case some of you, would like to look up some of the. There's someone. Please mute your audio if you can. I'm waiting. Please mute. Admin, help us to mute again. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so in case it's useful, I'm going to continue anyway. In case it's useful, I put some publications at the bottom of the screen. They have a habit of sharing slides with you. You will have them. Kahneman wrote a book. That's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Anyway, the point I wanted to make here is that importance is silent. For example, they ended up muting everybody. Okay, I hope you can hear me now. All right, so urgent things shout. Notifications from your phone, your email pings, deadline, a form is due, there's a meeting. But there are some things that are important that don't shout. For instance, your daughter. Your daughter needs your attention. You need to take care of your health. They're not urgent, they don't shout. You need to take care of your marriage, little things of your married life. None of those things send calendar invites. If you look at your email, there's no calendar invite saying, oh, have you said something to your loved ones? Okay. So that's the
You want mute now, mute now.
Sorry, if you see me pause, I'm just simply pausing when I get this. I can try to talk over them, but maybe it's not good for you. Anyway, so the second point is that nothing expires by default. And then I've tried to illustrate this here because the moment we said yes to a particular request, maybe in 2019, they asked you to sit on a committee, we said yes. 2020, you joined several WhatsApp groups, yes. 2021, there was a favor, a recurring favor. Yes. 2022. Okay. Every yes, at the moment we said yes, was reasonable. But the interesting thing is that nothing falls off on its own. And the suggestion I'm making, which I will make, is that we have to subtract. We have to subtract at some point. If you combine this point with the one also that there are many other borrowed urgencies, we have to subtract. So nothing expires by default. At the moment of saying yes, no single yes was unreasonable. Commitments accumulate, and you end up having maybe 30 active commitments, and then none of them will deliberately end by itself. This is a structural condition of modern adulthood. And the older we get, the wider our social network, and then we'll take on different things. And then the third cause problem is that of the borrowed urgency. Borrowed urgency. Other people's deadlines become the things that make your chest tight. You can't feel the difference between what is your own fire or the fire you agree to help somebody put out. Again, I'm not suggesting that we should stop caring for people, okay? I'm just stating cold facts, okay? And then later on, we'll now see how to take care of them, because there is a cost to everything, okay? So I'm not suggesting that you say no, but I'm actually suggesting that you should sometimes say no. Why? Because you don't have infinite resources, be they physical resources, be they cognitive resources. Okay? Anyway, so why being on guard not be considered uncaring, but we have to sometimes ask ourselves, whose deadline is this? When did I agree to make it mine? Because something has to give. Why? The resources are not finite, are not infinite, I beg your pardon. And then the last course, my suggestion of why things may seem urgent is this, what you can call zero cost interruption. Think back to 1985. The physical world filter that people had that parents like you had in 1985, they got it for free. Most of those filters have been dismantled. Okay. For instance, if you wanted to see someone, you can think of them as a cake. If you wanted to see someone, you would actually go to the person. If you wanted to communicate with someone, you would actually wait for a reply. You visit. Someone had to do real work to reach you. Someone had to call you. Someone had to send you a letter. What's happening now? That filter is gone. Anyone can reach you instantly. It's even rewiring our brain. You know those three dots that appear. You know that someone is typing. The person has not finished typing. Is typing. That's a clear marketing psychology designed to hold your attention. Waiting. Anyway, and then you get sent messages on your phone, and you are expected to respond. Actually, that's why it's called instant message. Okay. Where communication used to be asynchronous, I send you a message and in your own time you respond. The expectation has changed now. Expectation is that the response should be immediate. Now, what do I mean by these approximately 23 minutes? That's what research says, that if you are involved in something that requires mental effort, assuming, let's use study as an example. You are studying and you reach a particular level of concentration and focus that took you, I don't know how long it took you to get there. If there is any interruption, it takes you approximately 23 minutes to get back to that same level. No wonder, therefore, many would abandon the effort at that point. Because, go back to the example of that traffic call. We deploy resources to every bit of every stimuli that comes in. Okay? The resources we have to deploy are not infinite. Again, to recap, what are the possible causes? That the things that are important are silent, that the importance of things are usually silent. What is louder? The urgent things. The important things in our life don't send us notification. And the other point is that nothing expires by default. Okay, we tend to end up saying yes to many things. We don't re-examine them. And then borrowed urgency, borrowed in the sense that many of the things that are urgent, again, if you look at that, the fact that importance is silent, right? And urgent things are the ones that shout, that call our attention. And you combine that with the fact that many of the things that are urgent were not made urgent by us, but borrowed from other people. And then second point, the last point, zero cost interruption. All right, so what can we do? So M refers to move. What move can we make? So the first suggestion I have, which is to take care of that first one, to make sure that the important things are no longer silent, is to make what is important, to make the importance of things dear to us, make them legible, make them audible, make them loud. And then I think one way we could do that is to build what I call a fixed scaffold, a scaffold in the sense of something that is fixed, that doesn't change. We should establish a protected slot in our lives for something important that doesn't move, even when urgent things appear. Urgent things will appear. Okay, for example, there are many things that you already do them. You make a daily timetable for whatever reason, and then there's time for dinner, family dinner. There are things that happen in family in the morning. There's this time I have an appointment with my child, with my daughter, with my son, this particular time. Okay, there is a time in the family we decide that there is no phone, we take a daily walk. These are examples of scaffold. You're already doing many. If you look at all these, it's not being rigid. It's not being rigid. So the point of this is the purpose is legibility. It's not a question of how much we achieve. You want to make sure that the things that you now put in that scaffold, even when the loudness comes from the urgent things, you still pay attention to this, okay? Because there's a tendency and the attention-based view of firm tendency that we usually pay attention to the loudest things. We usually pay attention to the things that we discuss the most. So we don't want that to happen. The second suggestion, which is the fact that things accumulate and then is to subtract deliberately. Okay. So what am I carrying that I never consciously chose to carry? Maybe to ask yourself once a month. You can call it the monthly filter question. What am I carrying that I never consciously chose? Okay. Recognize that all of us have an addition bias for whatever reason. Sometimes we take on things because of I don't know, there's a improved self-concept in taking on things. Okay. For whatever reason. Sometimes we don't have any choice, but many times we're just saying yes because there are people in need around us. Okay, so name it, identify it. But then to introduce a subtraction discipline. Again, what is the risk here? That you'll be seen as not being caring. That's not my focus here is, okay, fine. My focus here is, yes, you may be seen as not being caring, but what's the risk? There's an order in charity, there's an order in justice, there's an order, okay, because the resources we have to deploy are not infinite. So introduce the subtraction discipline. All right, so, and then the third suggestion is, okay, since there are some borrowed urgency, to sort the borrowed from the owned, okay? whose deadline is this? Whose deadline is this one that I'm carrying? When did I agree to make it my own? At least to recognize it and before you even do something about it. At that moment, whose deadline is it? Did I agree to make it my own? Okay, there'll be many answers. All right. This is not about becoming uncaring, but to label them, call them what they are. All right, so now this is not a blank screen. There are things here, but I want to talk about them one by one. Because that fourth point, review the filter. Remember when we were talking about the filter, that there were physical filters. Previously, for instance, there were physical spaces and temporal routines that life established. Some of them have disappeared now. My suggestion is that we have to bring them back, because many times these filters are like guideposts as to when different roles are enacted. Remember how we started, right? Those circles, different domains, we play different roles in different domains, right? So usually there was a clear boundary that when I finish from this domain, there was an end, okay, many of those boundaries for whatever reason have disappeared or are disappearing. There were guideposts that let us know when different roles were being enacted. For instance, physically going to work, set up a routine. Even that physical, someone is taking over my screen. I hope you're seeing what I'm saying. Anyway, physically going to work, set up a daily routine and clear transition. So why do we need a filter, first of all? The first point is blurred boundary between domains. The phone is not to blame, okay? The phone is not to blame. Okay? So when I say blurred boundary, phone is not the only thing. The fact also that the world has become a bit more global, there's more intercultural mix, globalization, making the world a global village, all of these have also contributed. Why do we need a filter? Blurred boundaries between domains. Transition points are no longer clear. Is it clear to me when I'm moving from fulfilling the role, the responsibility of this particular role of where is the transition point between fulfilling the responsibilities of being a direct report to someone at work and a husband when I'm at home? Because many times the domains, the boundaries are not clear. There's no clear transition point. So I wanted to highlight two things, which is the stress points. The periods of transition can be stress points, especially if we don't recognize that we're moving between one domain and the other. And the task switching itself is a stress point. No wonder, therefore, that some of the recommendations in research has recommended, for instance, they recommended something that seems mundane and doesn't seem to make sense. That one way of recovering the resources you spend at work before getting home, that the greenery, I like this example because on the face of it, it doesn't seem to make sense. That the greenery along your commute, the sight of greenery along your commute actually helps the recovery process. Okay. So whatever thing that takes you away, okay, you deploy a different kind of effort, reduce effort, change, so transition. So task switching. So if you are able to recover between switching from one task to the other, there's a tendency to have less stress. So just to recognize first this point, because if we recognize this, we'll now decide what filters to deploy. Now, the periods of transition can be stress points. Why? Because they involve task switching. And because the problems are unclear transition points and task switching, on that basis, we can now see what solutions do I recommend here, which is we need signals. We need to know. We need to know when we need to have a way to signal that. And the only one way to signal is to establish routines, okay? Establish routines to signal to yourself that you're switching roles. Okay, and it is on that basis, therefore, that hopefully this fourth point will make more sense. We need to rebuild the filter. Why? We go back again to the previous slide. There are two problems: unclear transition points and task switching. Two possible solutions. We need signals. We need to recover. How? We need to establish routines to signal to our mind that we're switching roles. So let's look at rebuilding the filter. I'm just looking at it, how much time I have here. Okay. Review the filter. So 4 routines I suggest here. And all of them have digital versions. Digital versions because many of us are involved in hybrid work, working from home or not working from home. We need to establish routines. One routine could be behavioral. But first, I'll give an example and it maybe illustrate why it's important. Behavioral routine. Now that many people attend class online, meetings online, you know the difference between attending an online meeting wearing shoes and not wearing shoes. I mean, the other participants in the meeting will not know, but you will know. There's a signal to yourself. Okay. But anyway, closing the laptop, change out of work clothes. What does that do? It signals there's a transition. We need signals, so behavioral routines. So to establish behavioral routines, for example, to make it clear to yourself that, I don't know, when I come back home, just thinking of this off the cuff, I come back home, I will change out of my work clothes before I start attending the things at home, signaling to myself changing, because the stress points, that transition point is usually a stress point. Closing the laptop, close it. No, I'm not going to leave it on. Why? In case I miss a message. What message? Okay. And then fake a commute. Fake a commute if you are working from home. If you're working from home. So what some people have done, and there's been studies that show that it helped them transit from one task to the other, switch from one task to the other, fake a commute, in the sense that not everybody has that luxury, but if you have the luxury of, I don't know, walking to work, even though your workplace is another room in your house, fake a commute. Anyway, those are examples of behavioral routine. Example of temporal routine: to have clear hours for different things. Because what we're trying to do here is to create boundaries. Temporal routine, temporal here referring to time. Hours for work, hours for family, not whenever I can. No. Next. And then another is a physical routine. Again, not everybody has the luxury of having a dedicated workspace or a workplace in the home. If you do have such a place, to use it. Okay. Not everybody has that luxury, because someone may live in a room. Okay. In that room, you have bed, you have desk. Okay. So how within that small space, I don't know, you can make decisions. And I'm not going to sit on the bed to work. What are you doing? Physical routine. And then communication routine, make clear to all the stakeholders. We have family at work. Okay. For example, I don't reply after 9 p.m. I'm actually then don't reply. Okay. All right. At the end of the day, we started by reminding ourselves that we all operate in different domains, and within each domain, we play at least one role, and sometimes multiple roles in the same domain, and sometimes there's an intersection, collision even between the domains. And we also established the fact, hopefully we've made that point, that the cognitive resources we deploy to attend to all these are not infinite. They're finite. They finish. They can be exhausted. You're driving from one place to the other. How did I get here? Why? Because we actually were able to drive from Lagos Business School to Civic Center because the driving reflex is automatic. If you have learned to drive, many times you're doing everything automatic. So you have deployed some mental resources, cognitive resources out of that place. So what is at stake here? So, and therefore you may have, I'm sure you've heard of the term mindfulness. So mindfulness is, what is mindfulness? It's a state, it's a trait. Okay, it can be developed, but it's an ability. Simply put, mindfulness refers to being able to have focused attention and awareness on a primary task. And then when distractions or stimuli come from outside, we are able to attend to those distractions without judgment. Let me just say it and explain a bit. Okay, being able to have focus, attention, and awareness on a primary task. And then when distractions come, we're able to attend to them without judgment, and then able to still return to the primary task with still full attention and awareness. Why without judgment? Which is an illustration of without letting it affect the level of concentration. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. But mindfulness can be measured, okay? And then there are things we can do. There are things we can do to improve, because that's the muscle we then need. We need to train that muscle, okay? And then there are some suggestions that I have here showing on the screen, which is, the first one is to find some time to recover our cognitive, referring to mental resources. Maintenance routine for some people is to spend some time praying. Okay, I'm going to spend time. I don't know. It's not every prayer that is this can be a quiet prayer. It can be a time, I don't know, it can be a time. Yeah. Whatever you are doing, whatever you can do 5 to 10 minutes. If you don't want to pray, you want to listen to cool music or whatever, 5 to 10 minutes routine. Yeah. Deliberate breathing exercises help. I mean, some of you may have heard of the box breathing. Yeah. Box, think of a box. Box, inhale, hold 4 seconds, escape 4 seconds. Anyway, you can look it up. Or getting rid of the phone. Or getting rid of the phone. Anyway, so I'm finishing now. And there are many things we can do, but here's one that I thought that, because if at least one thing is clear to me, which is that the resources we can deploy to take care of our responsibilities are not infinite. One question I can ask myself is, what am I carrying that I never consciously chose to carry? So I'm going to ask you, okay? Think about it. I'd like you to spend 60 seconds. I have a timer here. Don't tell us. If you are willing, you can share in the chat. You don't have to. I just want this to be an introspection. What's the question? What am I carrying that I never consciously chose to carry? Okay, so and then then one suggestion is drop one thing and then tell one person close to you. drop one thing, decide to drop one thing and see if it helps. I don't know that it will help, but perhaps it will help. Drop one thing. Okay, for example, family is important to all of us here. So prioritizing your family is a subtraction exercise. You have to subtract some things because you cannot add more family time to a life that is already full, you know? Okay. All right, then, so my suggestion is decide to drop one thing and then tell someone that can hold you to account that thing that you have decided to drop. And this is where I leave it. So I thank you for your attention. Moderator, over to you. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Ohu. This is thought-provoking and enlightening. We can already see from the chat box what people are going to do, their action plans, and the way forward. We can already also see the love emojis, the claps. That is to show that there will be a change in behavior after today's session. I'm sure we can all agree that the insights shared today are not only relevant, but immediately applicable to our daily lives as parents. Thank you so much for this time. Now will be question and answer session, and we have about 10 minutes for that. We hope to have people type in their question on the chat box, and if you would like to talk, then you can raise up your hand and we'll let you speak. For now, we'll take our questions and answers. Let's feel free to type in our question. Does anybody want to ask questions? You're free to indicate, and then we open up the floor for you. So while we're waiting, another person said in the chat box, indulging people's behavior is one of the things. I encourage people by liking their ads. That makes them tag me in their stories. Okay. So we also have from Mrs. C. Joma, thank you for the insightful presentation. All right, since we don't have any question this night, that means we assimilated everything and we're still reflecting and thinking of action points to take home. Do we have any questions? Okay, more of appreciation. Okay, Chukudubem says, I have a question. What if the person hasn't reached the state of mindfulness? What if the person hasn't reached the state of mindfulness? So would you like to take the question now?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that everybody's talking about mindfulness now. There was a time that it was considered like a taboo because it was the Buddhists that were mostly talking about mindfulness, but there appears to be a science behind it. But more to the question, the person hasn't reached the state. Precisely the term state is a reference because mindfulness is described as a trait or a state. Okay, a trait means a more enduring one, which comes after some time and is more permanent. But then the state, okay, refers to the more transient one. So if the person hasn't reached the state, it means we keep practicing. I mean, if earlier on we suggested that it takes about 23 minutes to come back to the same level of attention we had before, how can I exercise myself to get to the state of mindfulness that I'm able to get to that, recover faster in 5 minutes or 2 minutes? Perhaps it's a lifelong struggle, okay? If you look up mindfulness later on, you find that the typical mindfulness training is an 8 weeks training, okay? But then some people are trying to reduce it to a few hours. The answer to your question, you haven't reached, keep trying. Keep trying, and then don't give up. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. So it means as long as there is life, we have to keep trying. right? So thank you for that. We have more of appreciative comments on the chat box. Thank you so much, sir, for this impactful session. This is an eye-opener to so many things I have taken for granted. Okay, Ngozi Ekweme says, in a very chaotic world, especially in a Nigerian setting, how do you really become mindful? Okay, so that's a question.
Okay, okay, fine. I don't know if I don't know if I'm exactly going to be answering Mr. Kweme's question, but I can't finish a session like this without really talking about the mobile phone. Okay, I mean, I work a lot with technology. I love it, but we have to also realize that just think about the notifications that come from your phone. And notifications can be haptic, vibration, can be sound, okay, can even be the light. All of these require attention from us, even when we're engaged in other things. You may have read the book or called Alone Together, describing how people can be in a family are supposed to be paying attention to one another, and then they're all on the phone. So if mindfulness is to pay full attention and awareness to a particular thing, it means that I require some discipline. And speaking of phone specifically, might mean that I should deliberately put away those things that distract me. Okay. Yeah, not to pay attention to them or to ignore them. Mindfulness to pay attention to the primary task, and when distractions come, I'm able to attend to them without judgment. It might even mean that I need to ignore all of those distractions. I'm not going to look at my phone. Some people are able to do it, some people are not able to do it. Okay. So it requires discipline, it requires discipline, but like I said, continuous struggle. It's not laziness. The world has changed. Okay, the instruments of work have changed. I'm not saying don't throw away your phone by all means, but okay. All right, I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. For us in Nigeria, discipline is very important, okay, for us to achieve that. And of course, it's also a daily struggle. Ogoneze Chukwu says, thank you, Dr. Ohu, for the insightful teaching. Important is silent. Thanks for this. All right. Without any other question, okay, so we have emojis and reactions come to the rescue. Helps me respond without you getting overly absorbed. Okay. So we have links for the WhatsApp platform for us to join for further conversations and questions on the topic if we have. Also feel free to share the recorded link when it will be dropped tomorrow for your friends and family. We would like to wrap up today's session, and we'll start first by thanking our speaker, Dr. Eugene Ohu. Thank you for making this very engaging and opening our minds to what we can do as parents to work on the overdrive that we're facing. And to every parent that have made time to join us, thank you. Remember, parenting is a journey and you don't have to navigate it alone. At Parents First, we remain committed to supporting you every step of the way. We look forward to seeing you at our next edition. And until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep putting parents first. I am Melvina Ibuanugu, and on behalf of the Parents First team, we say good night and God bless you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.